Hi, I'm Susan Cranston. I'm the host of Authentik You, a talk show that features people in our community who've made changes in their life and sometimes in their career to follow a more authentic path. And that path often leads them on a journey of new beginnings. I was so excited about the guest that we're having on our show today. Her name is Heather Coburn, and she wrote a book that I couldn't wait to read. And so when I went off to California a few weeks ago, I had it with me in my carry-on, and I didn't stop reading it until I finished, which was basically the entire flight on the way to California. And Heather is an incredible person. She's so brave and so inspirational in terms of sharing her story about anorexia and many of her life journeys. The book has got so many very intense moments, but also some very lighthearted insights, and it's a great mix of that combination. What I found so interesting in her book, and we're going to ask her a number of questions, is that things can look very different in terms of what's on the surface versus what the reality is on the inside. And so today, Heather, I'm delighted that you can join us. Now, you've had a very successful career as a tennis player when you were younger, and you won the junior championship at the age of 16. And you were so disciplined and focused in terms of everything you were doing, but you paid a price for that in terms of having that kind of discipline. Can you share a little bit about that experience, what that was like?
I have a very driven personality. I've been known as not just type A, but type A+++. So anything I do, I like to do it well, or I'm not satisfied. And that's probably part of my life lesson, is just to be happy, happy with yourself. And I was never happy just with myself, being an average tennis player. I had to be something extra. Like at school, I studied hard. I was on the top of the honor roll. I took up bridge, and I got my life master at bridge. I wanted to be an accountant. I got my CA. Then I got my in-depth tax course. So just never satisfied with just me inside. And then when it came to losing weight, everyone says they want to be thin. And I thought, oh, I can do that too. So I lost a bit of weight, and I thought, this feels kind of good. So I lost a bit more. Felt still a little bit good, but then it became an addiction, and I couldn't stop what I was doing, and it was just a slippery slope, and then I wasn't liking it.
No, and it impacted your life in terms of how you felt about yourself, how you saw others too, right? You wrote about that in your book. So that's the fascinating part for me too, is that you've been on this journey and you decided to write a book to share it with others. Can you talk a little bit about what motivated you to write the book?
Actually, everyone said to me about 5 years ago, you should write a book, because they had seen me at 72 pounds, and then they see me now. And I thought, oh no, I'm too much of a head case to write a book. I couldn't write a book. And then after a few months, I thought, you know what, I can write a book. So I approached David Chilton and asked him what he thought of what I had to write about. And he said, well, you need to make it a conversation, and every part in your book, have a lesson, have something in mind. What point am I trying to make here? And you can teach people that way and keep it interesting. So he said, I hope I can get my sister on board. So then I met his sister, Susan, and we hit it off, and I actually wasn't going to finish it. It was such a long process that I had written it, and those ending details were a lot to deal with, and I was busy in my own personal life, and I wasn't actually going to finish it. And my dad said to me, you remember your accomplishments. So like at the end of life, you'll remember your accomplishments, so finish it. So I did, and then I was actually completely shocked at the response. I didn't expect to get the response I did.
I'm sure you got a fabulous response, but you also got some great advice. So there's so many things from what you've just shared in terms of who you reached out to. And David Chilton is the author of...
He's awesome.
He's the author of The Wealthy Barber. And Sue Chilton, his sister, is also a great writer and a great editor.
Oh my gosh, she's an amazing editor.
So you've reached out to some wonderful people who have great insights and helped you sort of continue along in terms of completing the book. Now, the book itself is so important because you're talking about your journey through anorexia and identifying the symptomology, identifying when you got help and what you were feeling about that. And that's so important for someone who might be or perhaps has a daughter that is going through that. Can you share a little bit more about what a parent might do, or someone who might be worried that their child has anorexia?
The one thing I'll say is get help immediately. It's like any illness. The longer it goes on, the harder it is to cure. Mine went on forever and took me 3 tries, inpatient hospitalizations, to cure myself. So get help right away. And definitely don't judge. And don't try and make them eat. That's just going to make it worse. It's going to cause a war. It's much more than that. It's tell them what a great person they are. And that's just not for someone with anorexia. And my book, from what I hear, is a book that's more about a lot more than a recovery from anorexia. It's a book of life lessons.
It absolutely is. And hold that thought, because when we come back from the commercial break, we'll talk more about some of those fabulous life lessons. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Susan Cranston, and welcome back to Authentic You, a talk show that's featuring a very special guest today, author and accountant Heather Coburn. Now, Heather's written a book called The Perfect Imperfect Me, and I just absolutely love this book. It's more than just about someone who's been dealing with anorexia, but it's a book about many life lessons. And Heather and I were just chatting on the break, and I was telling her a story, which I'm going to share with you now. I was driving to an event the other day, and I was driving in the exit as opposed to the entrance, and I thought, I shouldn't be doing this. And I wondered what you would do, because there's this chapter in your book about repairs, and you've been working with a wonderful therapist by the name of Jennifer, who's been helping you deal with how you self-described feeling a bit self-involved at times and sort of taking some liberties in terms of perhaps parking in spots that maybe weren't allocated for you necessarily. Can you tell us about that chapter in a bit more detail?
Yes. During my illness, I was so sick and so self-involved that I only cared about myself and my weight. And that was pretty much it. I had no conscience. I took the parking spot in the fire route. I didn't care. A ticket for parking in a fire route is $40. I've had several. I would just pay them, didn't matter. Whatever made life easiest, because it was just such a hard life I was living. And didn't care about friends, didn't care about people. I just cared about being thin. And obviously my brain wasn't thinking properly. I was starving. Once I got renourished and realized that there was more to life than counting calories, I stopped doing it so much. I might occasionally park closer to the front door than I should. But I haven't got a $40 ticket in a long time.
Well, that's great.
But I started, actually there's a part in my book, I don't know if you remember, but I felt guilty about something I did. And I thought, oh, I shouldn't have parked there. And then I say, I think I'm starting to get a conscience. Oh, that's going to be a nuisance. But that's what life is all about, being respectful. And I know that now.
And it's funny that is, you know, it's such a heartfelt experience that you're sharing, but also there are these fabulous elements of humor. So there's levity in your book, and you can relate to it. In, you know, whether or not you've gone through such a deep, very personal experience as your own that you're sharing, but anyone can relate to some of these life lessons and these experiences. So the whole concept of repairing, you've also had to deal with repairing relationships. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
I think you asked me earlier, how did I do it?
Or, how did you do it? Yes.
Yeah, and
yes. How did you work on repairing them?
It's actually amazing how forgiving people can be. I'm so lucky to have a family and great friends, and I had some friends that really stood by me. My tennis coach, Ed Andrulis, has stood by me through thick and thin, and his wife, Helena. My parents have been amazing, and I've had my friend, Diane Fisher, just great friends that have stood by me. That's when you know you only need like 5 really close friends, and they stood by me, and It's amazing how people are when you're honest with them. You say, I messed up and I'm sorry, and you learn from that. No one cares. People forget about it. So just be honest and ask for forgiveness, and people will forgive you and they'll forget about it.
Again, another great life lesson, right? It's an opportunity to have a do-over, and just recognizing that maybe something didn't go as well as it could, but that you're, looking for the forgiveness and you really want to continue.
I'm really good at do-overs.
It's a good thing to do, right? For sure. There's something else that just when you were talking, I kept thinking about apple pie.
Oh my gosh.
So, and it just made me, when I was reading your book, I was craving apple pie for about half of it. Tell us about your mom and apple pie and what that meant for you.
Oh gosh. Well, I remember my mom, oh gosh, she is awesome. But when I first had anorexia, yeah, she wanted me to eat. But I think I was actually recovered at the time, and she sent me home with, I had a piece of apple pie. It was Thanksgiving, so I had one there, and then she sent me home with 2 more. And then on the drive home, I took a bite, and then with my finger, and then I put it in the fridge at home, and I thought, oh, I want some more. Took another bite, but all with the time still battling, I shouldn't be eating this right now. So that was the lesson that I polished off both the pieces, felt crappy the next day, so I go back to Jennifer, and I said I didn't even enjoy it because I kept thinking this last bite is going to be my last. So she said, well, and it was bothering me all morning at work. I couldn't concentrate because I had 3 pieces of apple pie. She said, Heather, yesterday I was at a baby shower and I ate all afternoon long, but I'm fine today. Am I going to do that today? No, I'm not. But I was beating myself up and she wasn't. And that's just how my inner nature, if I do something bad, I beat myself up. And my dad always says, be good to yourself.
It is. You know what, I think that's so important. And the way you've described your parents, your therapist, and your family in general, they just seem like they're just an amazing support to you and wonderful to have in your life. We've also talked about, just a little bit before we were on the show, about judgment and basically not judging. And also when you were describing, what to do if you think someone is struggling with anorexia, not to judge them.
No.
How important is that, and why is that relevant, and is that one of the messages that you hope to get readers to get out of your book?
Well, that's one thing I've gotten out of my struggle is I don't judge anyone for anything. We all have something. If you think someone's life is perfect, it's not. We all struggle with something. And until you've struggled, I think you're going to judge until you know what it's like to struggle with something. And I struggled so much that I would never judge anyone for anything.
Well, you are just giving us so much insights and so much wisdom. And I really see you as someone who can be a mentor to others through your book and through speaking opportunities. So stay with us. We're going to be back, and we're going to hear more of Heather's fabulous insights. Hi, I'm Susan Cranston, the host of Authentic You, and my guest today is Heather Coburn. She's written a book called Perfect Imperfect Me, where she shares life lessons as well as her experience as someone who's dealt with anorexia nervosa. So Heather, you've talked about the experience of writing the book, but also we talked a little bit about people who've been influential in your life. So who's helped you most through, whether it's the book or through recovering from anorexia, and why have they helped you?
Well, my family, of course, but apart from my family, Jennifer Brighton, my therapist, I went through a lot of therapy, like I said. I was inpatient at Homewood Health Center, inpatient at Toronto General, and inpatient at Credit Valley, and that's where I met Jennifer. And anorexia used to be treated, gain this much weight, get to a BMI of 20 and you'll be fine. So I remember when I was 16 at the time when my eating disorder first started, and I went to the doctor and they just said, gain this much weight. So I would gain that much weight and then I'd feel even worse. Then that was pretty much the same as it was at Homewood. I know things have changed since then because it's a long time ago. Then my second hospitalization at Toronto General, I remember therapy became a bit more, where they would ask more about feelings, how to deal with different relationships, how to deal with problems in your life. But one thing I did find is you would go and say, I feel, well, they say fat is not a feeling. I say in my book, I think it's right up there. Happy, sad, fat. But anyway, I feel fat today. And they'd just be like, okay, I hear you. You feel fat today. Okay. And then they would just nod. And then I'd continue, well, I had a fight with my friend and it didn't make me feel good. Oh, I hear you saying you had a fight with your friend. It was like they would repeat everything I said.
Just mirroring what you were saying,
yeah,
right?
It was unbelievable. And then I caught on to that, and once you start seeing it, you're like, wow, this isn't working for me. When I met Jennifer, I can say to her, for example, I'm stressed at work. Why are you stressed at work? I'm stressed because I have this job, and just this job. She goes, what else is going on in your life? This, this, and this. Oh, and my dad will say this too. Those are 5 reasons to be stressed. No wonder you're stressed. What can you do about this one? I can talk to my boss. Can you tell him I can't get that done on time? When do you need it by? Yes. Can you write everything down? She gave me suggestions.
So she really practically listened and helped you. She honored what you were saying, respected it, and didn't just mirror back what you were saying.
You dealt with it.
You dealt with it. And there's some great examples in the book. Whether someone's actually dealing with anorexia or not, I think your book is fabulous to read. Because just for the elements in it, from the story in it, and the way you describe your experiences, you are so authentic about how you share. And that's a gift for the reader. So thank you for that.
Oh, actually, I have a kind of a cute story, or I think it is. I have a 66-year-old man client, and he came the other day to the office, and he picked it up at about 2 p.m. He emailed me at 6. Heather, it never left my hand.
I completely believe
it. 66 years old. So anyway, that felt good. And then my boyfriend's daughter, Julia, she's 13. She's like, I'm addicted. But they are really short chapters. Or other people say they'll be reading it in the car, and they'll just read one little chapter at a time.
As long as they're not the one driving, right?
Oh, yeah, that would probably be me.
So on that note, you're getting such positive feedback about the book. What is one thing you're most proud of?
Oh, I'm proud of who I am now because I'm such a different person. I'm proud that I don't judge, but mostly I'm proud of the family I come from, not of any of the accomplishments. Anyone can write a book, anyone can try hard at tennis or try hard at school, but the most important things in life, and this is what my dad would always tell me, are your health and your relationships with people. I'm proud that I have my health back and my relationships. I have a wonderful boyfriend, Brian. I have a wonderful family. My mom and dad are great. My 2 sisters. I'm proud of my friends.
That's a beautiful answer. And maybe your dad should write a book too. Sounds like
he's
got a lot to share too. So, we talked about what you're most proud of. If given the chance, what is something you might do differently?
For myself, nothing. Because I had to go through, unfortunately, all those struggles to be the person I am today. I wouldn't be who I am today had I not struggled as hard as I did. I just wish my family didn't have to struggle with me because they suffered a lot.
But they obviously care deeply for you. And I'm so glad that you went through that struggle in terms of being here with me today.
Oh, thank you.
And to be able to share your story with me, with our viewers, and to have written this book. Is there something when you think about your life that you wish you could do more of right now?
No. I have an awesome job. I love my job. I have 3 amazing bosses, Wayne, Doug, and Stan. And they gave me a half a year off work to go into the hospital. It was in the middle of tax season too. They have been so amazing. So I work with wonderful people. I love my job. I love my family. I love golf. I love my boyfriend. And those were all the things missing. There's a chapter in there where I have a pie, not an apple pie, but we're working on the pie of life. And I think one day I spend like 4 hours golfing, 8 hours at work, and the rest of the time sleeping or unaccounted for. And we notice, hey, where was teaching Eric tennis, my little nephew, for a half hour a week? Where was visiting your parents for a half hour? Those are the things that fill you up. They don't take much time, but your relationships with people are what fills you.
It's so true, and I've often thought about that pie of life. I've thought about apple pie too, but it's, you know, it's a great exercise for anyone to do, so I encourage them to get your book. How can someone get access to your book?
It's available on my website.
What's the URL for your website?
It's www.theperfectimperfectme.com. You can buy it on a credit card there. It's available at Wordsworth Bookstore, which is a local bookstore in Waterloo. Chapters Kitchener and Chapters Waterloo.
Oh, congratulations. That's
Thank you.
fantastic.
Thank you.
So when you think about people purchasing your book or getting your book, what is it that you hope that they'll get out of it? If there are a couple of things that come to mind.
It's interesting because I'm shocked at the response, especially from a book that I wasn't even going to finish. Everyone seems to relate to it in a different way. They'll remember this or that. It depends who you are. So I can't answer for other people, but for me, it was always tell the truth. Because I remember, I'm going to backtrack. I remember when I was sick, I would wake up every morning thinking, this is wrong, my life is wrong. But when you wake up and you know you have told the truth to everybody, and you give out positive, you're at peace with your life. Because if you give out positive, you're going to get back positive. So I read the book The Secret. I just loved it. And it just showed if you give out positive, you get nothing but positive back. And once you get in that mode, oh my gosh, your life turns around.
It does. Well, just the answers you provided about all the things you're grateful for, all the good things that are happening to your life. And I remember reading The Secret too, and doing the exercise around coming back to that whole thing about getting that ideal parking spot. I'm going to find that.
Yeah.
So maybe that, you know, you could apply that too to getting to those really close
It's
parking
true.
spots.
Things do fall into place. Well, I got to meet you.
Oh, well, well, I got to meet you too, which is absolutely wonderful. So is there anything else? We've covered some ground in the book. We've talked a little bit about your life and your experience as an accountant, a little bit about tennis. Is there anything else that you'd like our viewers to know about you or to know about your book or about anything in general?
Probably where someone can contact me. On my website, there's a contact me place, and it goes right to my Gmail account. So if anyone out there has a daughter who's suffering, I have time to help them. And I just don't want anyone to be afraid to ask, because I know what I needed. And I'm hoping that I can help someone else too, if I haven't already.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, thank you.
It's just wonderful to
You
meet
were
you
so
and to know
nice.
you. So I just want to, again, thank Heather for being with us today, and to thank all of you for tuning in. And I hope you'll check out her book. It's called The Perfect Imperfect Me, and it's available in Chapters and Wordsworth Book, and you can actually buy a copy with credit card online from her site. And I encourage you to do so. It's a fabulous read, and it doesn't even take that long to read. I want to thank you for joining us today. Thank my wonderful crew here at Rogers TV Cable 20, my Authentik You crew, my hairstylist, Scott Keller, my makeup artist, Jen Hovenga, David Boys, who designed the set, Elise Bierstock, who's my PR expert. And again, remember, every day is a great day to be your authentic self. Have a wonderful day, and thanks for joining us. Bye for now.